thank the Golden Door Festival for selecting it to show. Hopefully, little announcement. Next week, actually, this will all be available on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. So if you liked it and you want to share it, it'll be available next Thursday. So just type in Programming Hope and it should be on there. But thanks for coming out and seeing the film. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
How long did it take to put together? Because it seemed like a lot of footage, and I guess you kind of framed it as spanned over a year. So you were...
Yeah, it actually it was almost about 2.5 years of shooting. I was editing during that 2.5 years, so it took start to finish 3 years to put together. We showed it for the first time, a longer version of that, if you can believe that, in 2015. And so we've shown it in theaters, various places around the country, and different things like that in between. But yeah, finally we'll get it out on digital, so hopefully a lot of people can see it. You know, it's a lot easier to watch it at home than it is to navigate traffic and see it.
What are some of the future goals you have for the group? I mean, it's definitely the second in Houston. It's great.
Yeah.
Do you hope to expand to more locations in the future?
Well, I'm not affiliated with them at all.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, like...
But I do. I still keep in touch with them. I know what's going on. So they actually have a group in Austin that's very organized. That could potentially be another location. There's a group in Portland, Oregon that is actually running, kind of a part-time situation that's very similar to that. So they may be another group that comes on. There's groups around the country that are organized in different stages. The main thing that it takes to get off the ground is money. And they're always, just like any nonprofit, trying to raise money to get that initial capital. They need, like a location, the computers and all that kind of stuff. So.
I have two questions. One of them is, are you employing anyone with autism? Because they usually have great video editing skills. And my son here, actually we started the program 8-9 years ago. And now another student picked that up, and then so he's still going to video editing class. And are you employing? That was my first question.
Oh, am I personally? Yeah. I'm just self-employed, so I'm just one guy. But I actually had Mike, there's two. There's Michael and Mike. Mike, who was doing the video editing, he actually has helped me before, running audio and things like that. And so he's they're both listed as production assistants. So, but yeah, for the most part, I'm self-employed. So Phil actually is the producer on the film here. That's my wife Karen over there. But so it's a very small group of people. So it's I don't really have a staff of employees or anything. But
I can help you with that answer though. So can we just go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Well done on the film. Exceptional Minds out in California.
Absolutely, yeah.
They are an amazing, amazing team. They have another fabulous story from NBC with Lester Holt. And they actually have teenagers and young adults who they hire for graphic design. This group has gotten contracts with shows such as Game of Thrones. They have done the Last Avenger movie, which is really great. And they're actually in Oak Hills, California, and they're actually building. If you go to exceptionalminds.org, they actually have a list of graphic design firms that they are actually trying to work with in the United States who are employing individuals with autism. So that would be a great resource for you. It's Exceptional Minds, and I have some info on them if you would want that later.
Sure. Actually, there are other questions. One other thing, so this organization that we had 9 years ago, they were younger kids. They were from age 12 on. And then another producer wanted to make a movie about us and the kids in our program. Maybe it's because they were younger. Parents had, and kids had, they didn't want to be identified.
Right.
So because of that, you couldn't make the, basic, because some kids didn't want to show up in, they didn't want to be known as in the spectrum. Did you have any issues like that?
Not. Yeah, everybody that was in the film was happy to be in the film. They all kind of wanted to tell their story, and that may come with being older.
Yeah, I think so.
I think a lot of them had some difficult issues, whether it's in high school or college or just post high school, struggling, and were frustrated. And when we came and said, here's an opportunity to just say what's on your mind, they were very open to do that. And even after the film, once we were done, I kind of checked in on everybody. Said, were you okay with, everything? And they were all okay with it, because I think they felt like, well, they just had something to say. And I understand that with younger kids, probably maybe you're wanting to, whether it's fitting in or just to not identify with that. Yeah, I can understand that too. So.
Do you know if Mike and Lori are still together? Because I thought that was such a wonderful thing to include.
Yeah.
In it. The fact we think about employing people on the spectrum is not just about having a job, it's that opportunity to make those connections the way that neurotypical people do.
Right.
So do you know if they're still together?
Unfortunately, they're not.
Oh.
But, I think, in a perfect world they would be, but, hey, they're real people just like anybody, and they were together a long time, but it just, didn't work out. Yeah.
How did you originally get involved in the group?
For about 6 months, I went on kind of web forums and things like that, and kind of posted the topic or the idea that I wanted to do something on employment options and autism, and I wanted it to be uplifting. I didn't want to dwell on the negative stats. I wanted to show a story that inspires people to maybe come up with other opportunities. And so I didn't come up with many good stories. In fact, I had a mountain of really bad stories come in, and I was getting a little discouraged. And then another producer on the film, who's actually on the spectrum, he's an older guy, he's in his 60s, he called me up and said he was volunteering at a startup group, nonprofit in Plano, and I was kind of discouraged at the time, and I was like, well, I'll look into that at some point, And then at about 2 weeks, I found the card that he gave me after I had talked to him originally, and I called up Gary down there at Nonpareil, talked to him for about an hour, and I flew right down there. I was like, well, this was the place, the whole time I was looking for, so that's how it came about. Mm-hmm.
Is non-pro people practicing to become indie developers?
They're a company, they're trying to develop their own product, but, some people down there have gotten the training and decided, hey, I want to go and do my own thing, or I want to go work for Microsoft or whatever, So it's kind of it's just like any place, if you feel like you want to go out and do it on your own, if you can go do that, and,
You know what I mean by indie developer? Like,
I guess, well, I think I do. So what, tell me.
The definition is a low-budget developer that makes games on online stores and charges $15, and they don't have the money to publish the game or market it in GameStop.
I think non-pyro kind of fits that definition.
I think so. Yeah. I think they do. I'm not gonna. I don't know for sure, but I think that fits the bill. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just want to point out that so the program actually now, the program that I started became Film Academy 360.
Okay.
It's a TCI, if you know anyone,
Yep.
who can benefit we started video editing, but now, you know, it's been very productive for them. Also, they do the same thing like place kids. They do filmmaking, video editing, game creation, and graphics art, and you know, comes there too. So
Yeah. Just I should make my videos a bit longer.
Yeah.
I just feel like-
just you know,
What's the name of the company?
Film Academy 360. The Children's Institute in Livingston. That's actually school with autism. That's the one that's doing it. And David Diliani was a teacher at Spectre Academy. Then he actually took the kids from Spectre Academy to TCI, and it's within TCI. It's Film Academy 360. Just to, you know, and
They're a great group.
yes, they.
I know someone who's in the group. I think you know a young man named Andrew in your group. I don't know if you know Andrew. He's a big guy, but like a barrel. Or he does acting, I think, and he's in a program.
That's great.
If I could ask you a question, do you currently make films today, or
Well,
are
I
you
already
curious?
made a biography of James Logan Howlett, Wolverine, but now
That's awesome.
I'm thinking about making a video of, well, it's personal. Why do role-playing games have a deep story? Or maybe let me think of other titles. I don't know. I'll have to come up with an idea.
That's awesome.
They're starting a new session tomorrow.
So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves so I don't say the wrong thing. So, Anthony? Yes.
I am Anthony. I am a kicker for three football teams. I play for a college team, a Hurricanes semi-pro team, and a New Jersey Pitbull team. And I work at Little Caesars, and I work at Auto Repair Shop. And I am the only right to the mom and dad over there. Yep, and that's it.
So I would just like to add on to his bio just a little bit, because I've been following his story for quite a long time, and I've actually never met him. If any of you, a few years ago, his story was featured on ESPN. There's an amazing little documentary called The Kick of Hope that actually talks a little bit more about his own specific journey, but also how he hit the game-winning field goal when I believe he was a high school senior. And he's giving me a business card, rock on it. But it's actually on his business card too, so grab the business card when you're leaving today. But it's a fabulous story, and Anthony is an inspiration in his own right for everything that he has been doing. So, just wanted to.
Hey, I'm Aaron. I don't like speaking into microphones, but I hope everybody can hear me. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome in the 3rd grade. I have a bachelor's degree in international studies from American University and a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers with a focus on accessible transportation. And I'm currently a rail service planner with a large commuter railroad in the area.
Hi, I'm Amy Gravino. I'm on the board of the Golden Door Festival, have been for about a year and a half now. I founded my own organization called Ascot Consulting in 2010 after having a lot of difficulties with employment and jobs. I was burned pretty badly several years before that, and I kind of removed myself from the job market world entirely just because it was so traumatic. And I just realized I don't really do well working for other people, so I'd rather have my own business. And I started this LLC, and I'm an autism consultant. I'm a college coach, certified college coach for students on the spectrum, and I'm a professional public speaker. I speak about autism and sexuality primarily all over the country, and soon to be internationally. I'm going to Paris next month. And essentially, yeah, there's a lot of other hats that I wear, things that I do. I gave my second TED Talk last year. It's now online. It got over 7,000 views in a week, which is amazing to me. And that was here in Jersey City, actually. That was at the Lowe's Theater. So I'm really proud to have done that. And yeah, self-employment has definitely been the best option for me thus far. And I'm sure I'll have more to tell you in just a bit. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Sure.
I don't like talking on microphones either. My name is Kerry Magro, born and raised here in Jersey City. I have a very specific, unique story because my undergraduate was in sports management at Seton Hall University. I was pursuing a career at either CBS Sports or ESPN Radio, and I fell in love with working with children and young adults who have been impacted by diagnosis. So I changed career paths, and I got a scholarship to go to a master's program to learn how to be a professional public speaker. And I got a scholarship from the National Speakers Association. So I graduated with a master's in strategic communications and leadership, have been a professional speaker for over 7 years now, speaking at over 750 events in the United States and also internationally on just based on people who have been impacted by a diagnosis such as myself. And I'm currently getting my doctorate in education at New Jersey State University, where I'm hoping once I graduate, knock on wood, in 2019 to become a special education teacher on the college level to teach those about individuals with special needs. During my journey, I've worn many hats, kind of like everyone on this panel tonight, but today I'm also self-employed. I started a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2011 that provides scholarships for students with autism to go to college. And just about 3 years ago, I fell in love with video as well, and producing video, and started a Facebook page called A Special Community, where we highlight people who have been impacted by a diagnosis, so disability and disease. So along with being the president of my own nonprofit organization, I'm also a professional speaker. I've written 2 books based on my journey on the autism spectrum, consulted on 4 autism-related films, and that's actually how I started to get involved with the Sorvinos and the Golden Door Film Festival, and finally a consultant for families of those who are currently impacted by a diagnosis. I love that we were able to have this amazing documentary here at the Golden Door Film Festival. Just to add that October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and the majority of young adults today in the United States are either unemployed or underemployed. So having a channel like this is very much needed in our communities to continue the work. So thank you all so much for coming out tonight.
So do you have any questions?
I have a question for you, actually.
Yes.
I'm a program director at NJIT for biological engineering, and I have at least one student each semester who's on the Asperger's spectrum. I don't know if they can benefit. Do you work with NJIT or not?
My lovely mother is here tonight. She's in the back and has a million emails right now. But we have worked with NJIT in the past, but I've worked with many organizations within the New Jersey area, specifically focused on the transition to adulthood. Like Amy, I've given 2 TED Talks. One TED Talk focused on post-secondary, and the second talk focused on what happens to children with autism when they become adults. So we often mentor teenagers and young adults who have been impacted by a diagnosis to help them with their transition to adulthood, with everything from post-secondary, employment opportunities, housing, supportive living opportunities, and et cetera. So we'd love to work with you. Please, the handout, please send me your email. I'd love to get more information.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Questions?
I've always been in the working world I like the corporate working world, so somebody's always giving me a paycheck every week, and that's been really nice for me. So people that do entrepreneurial work always really impress me. So what was that like to get started in that? I guess this applies to the two of you, or maybe three of you. Just how did you find the way to turn a profit? I guess is the question.
I don't know if I'm exactly turning a profit yet. Autism is not the place to make money. I don't know if anybody's shocked by that. Seriously, if you're really going to be driving Rolls Royces and rolling around on a pile of cash, this is the wrong area for you. I guess what got me into it was thinking about what am I going to do with my life. My career aspiration until I graduated high school was to be a poet in a cottage in the Italian Alps. That was essentially all that I really wanted to do. And when I thought about the future, it just seemed to be kind of a black hole in front of me. I really didn't know what I was going to be any good at. And in 2005, I was interviewed for a documentary called Normal People Scare Me, which was directed by a young man with high-functioning autism named Taylor Frost. It interviews with over 65 people on the spectrum. And it was the first time anyone had wanted to elevate my voice like that, put me out there. And I had never experienced that, even though I've been speaking at conferences since I was 14 years old. I had never had my voice amplified in that way. And then the producers would tell me that when people would ask about the film, the person that they asked about most, other than Taylor, who was also in it, was me. And I said, me? And so that was when I began to realize that my voice had the potential to help people, that autism wasn't just a liability, it could be an asset. And so I ended up in graduate school. I have a master's degree in ABA, and I thought, what else can I do but help people who are walking the same path that I was once on? What else could I possibly do with my life that could be more meaningful, that could be more fulfilling? Someone has to do this. And in particular, a lot of people are working with little kids and younger kids, and that's great that there's definitely a place for that. I didn't like kids when I was a kid, and I know that there is a serious dearth of services and supports for adults on the spectrum, so that has always been my area of interest, is working with young adults, and then the sexuality piece just became a natural part of that. So starting the business just became this outgrowth of, I want to give back, I want to help people who are struggling now, not just younger people, but adults who still need help, because I know that there's so little out there, and so that's sort of how I got here, I guess.
I would say for myself, it was the realization, it was probably my first year of my master's program. I realized I just came out with my first book called Defining Autism from the Heart, which was focused on self-advocacy skills to teach my mentees how to go and tell people about their autism diagnosis and feel comfortable in their own skin. So I wrote that book, and I realized right away, authors don't make that much money. I thought I was going to sell like 50 copies, and it ended up being #1 Amazon bestseller for special need parenting, which kind of blew my mind, yet it still wasn't a lot of money. And then I started realizing the necessity of multiple revenue streams. Being given the opportunity to learn from national speakers on the topic of communication, the power of communication, and how to give effective presentations, I learned right away that just from some of the Warren Buffett, for example, one of the most well-known public speakers in the world, Bill Gates, they're always looking for multiple revenue streams in every single thing that they do. They're coming out with books, they're coming out with new and inventive ideas. So I think one of the biggest things which I try to encourage my mentees to do, what I try to encourage myself to every single day, is to think outside the box. What could be the next thing that can not only help my career, but also help benefit the people I'm working with. So, that's why today I tell people I have 5 jobs. I have one full-time job as a speaker, but I have 4 jobs as a consultant, a author, a nonprofit founder, and someone who mentors kids. So the multiple revenue streams is something that I think is so important. But I think the other thing, which is very important is, you know, autism is a national topic right now, but, you know, autism can be focused in any topic currently going on in the world today. For example, with National Disability Employment Awareness Month. I spoke 2 nights ago at a multinational insurance firm where I asked people right at the beginning, what is autism? And they all were like shaking their heads and like, I don't know what it's, I've never heard of autism before. And being able to kind of just see like, all right, autism can be applicable to employment. It can be applicable to post-secondary. It can be applicable to early intervention. All these different avenues, you kind of get a sense that you can be marketable anywhere. And that's kind of how I kind of started seeing my career. Just go every single place and try to give them something that will help them, regardless if it's autism or not.
And speaking as one of the non-entrepreneurs, I guess, I mean, I've worked for people who are, most notably while I was in grad school, I was a research assistant on an autism transportation project led by Dr. Cecilia Thiele at Rutgers, who is basically the person in New Jersey when it comes to autism and transportation issues. And one of the big challenges in the field is that there are so many different needs in the autistic community that have to be filled, and so few of them are really thought of at large. A lot of that is just because of the way in which we sort of advertise autism, that a lot of the way, well, not advertise autism, but the way that a lot of the major players in the nonprofit sector talk about autism, they focus on child and adolescent issues, when you also have a large adult population that often needs even more in the way of services, because we're expecting them, or at least we're hoping that they're going to be able to lead meaningful lives, find work, live on their own, or in facilitated settings. So,
And take public transportation.
or find some form of transportation, whether or not it's public or, you know, driving on their own or carpooling or what have you. Being able to have mobility is essential to all that, but there's also a gajillion other things that you need in order to be able to lead a fulfilling life that really, you know, you think about it on a day-to-day basis, like what are the various things that you do on a day-to-day basis, and then you think about how many of those things are going to be easy or difficult for somebody who's on the spectrum at various points on the spectrum.
So Anthony, how did you get into all of your jobs?
All my jobs, I've been busy. I always said it. I did that with my dad, that's all. And the other thing I did is I got my own job, and he's the one who helped me with football, that's all.
I'd like to just add, Anthony's not real comfortable talking in front of people sometimes, so I just would like to add this. In addition to all these wonderful things that these people have done in here, one thing Anthony does very well is we give school assemblies for elementary and middle school, and sometimes even high school teachers. As a matter of fact, we even did the opening presentation on for a faculty day a couple years ago. And when Anthony can get in front of people and people will talk to him about what his autism means to him, that's when he can shine. That's when he shines. Anthony is still looking for his niche as far as the employment goes, but he plays an awful lot of semi-football right now.
I play a lot of things football, and that's the problem.
Do you train others on? You're a kicker, right?
I am only kicker, and the only
Right.
person the only person I train that takes me all the time is him, my dad.
Yeah.
That's all.
Have you tried training younger kids on how to kick?
No, not yet.
Not yet. I'm only concentrating on myself this year.
All right.
Any other thoughts, questions? just for everyone, I passed out a handout. If you're interested in more information, please, you can just bring the handouts to this right there. Thank you all again. I'm back.
Any question?